The ocean is as mysterious as it is endless. It covers more than 70% of our planet, yet we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the world beneath the waves. Down there, in the cold and crushing dark, lie secrets that defy reason, ruins that shouldn't exist, ships that vanish without a trace, and sounds so strange they seem almost alien. These are not myths. They are real stories, documented, witnessed, and unresolved. So get comfortable, grab a snack, because tonight, we're diving into the unknown. 30 of the most haunting mysteries hidden in the ocean's depths. The deeper we go, the stranger it gets. Our journey begins in 1986, when a diver off the coast of Japan stumbled upon something so massive, so precise, that it ignited one of the greatest archaeological debates of modern times. Picture this: you're swimming through crystal clear water, schools of fish darting past, the seabed bright with coral. Then, in the distance, a shadow. A dark mass looms, growing larger with every kick. As you draw closer, you see steps, broad, sharp, deliberate, a staircase leading into the blue. This was the Yonaguni Monument, a colossal structure resting 100 feet beneath the waves, near Okinawa. To some, it looked like the ruins of a lost city, older than any known civilization. To others, it was nothing more than sandstone fractured by time and current. The man who first found it, Kihachiro Aratake, wasn't an archaeologist. He was a dive tour operator, simply searching for new spots to attract visitors. But what he saw stopped him cold. Giant platforms, terraces, and corridors that seemed carved by intelligent hands. Word spread quickly. Soon, scientists and divers from around the world came to see it for themselves. One of them, marine geologist Masaki Kimura, became convinced the structure was man-made. He claimed to have found stairways, roads, even carvings etched into the stone. To him, this was proof of an advanced culture, one that thrived more than 10,000 years ago, long before Egypt raised its pyramids or Stonehenge crowned the English plains. If Kimura was right, Yonaguni would rewrite human history. But skeptics pushed back. Geologists pointed out that sandstone naturally fractures into flat surfaces and straight lines, especially in an earthquake-prone region like Japan. Powerful currents could easily carve out terraces and angles that only looked artificial. To them, Yonaguni was extraordinary, but entirely natural. The debate grew fierce. Was it a forgotten civilization swallowed by the sea? Or just a trick of geology sharpened by our imagination? Divers who've explored it describe something different, a feeling. Swimming through its looming passageways, walls towering on either side, they say the site feels alive, like walking through an ancient temple. Only this one is drowned, silent, and cloaked in mystery. For now, Yonaguni sits in limbo, caught between science and speculation. Some see evidence of Atlantis, or of Japan's own ancient myths about a lost continent called Mu. Others see nothing but rock. But the truth is, the ocean doesn't give up its secrets easily. Whether Yonaguni is a relic of an advanced people or a masterpiece of nature, it reminds us of how much remains hidden beneath the waves. So what do you think? Carved by human hands, or sculpted by the sea? Either way, one thing is certain. Yonaguni is just the beginning, because as we leave Japan's submerged enigma behind, our next story takes us into the Pacific Ocean, where a ship set sail with passengers and cargo, and was later found adrift, abandoned, and eerily silent. From the silent stone terraces of Yonaguni, where ancient secrets rest beneath the waves, we now turn to the open Pacific. A place not of ruins, but of absence. A ship that vanished without a trace. only to reappear weeks later, adrift, abandoned, and haunted by unanswered questions. This is the mystery of the MV Joyita, one of history's most enduring ghost ships. It was October 1955 when the Joyita set out from Samoa, bound for the Tokelau Islands. A simple 2-day voyage across calm seas. On board were 25 people, crew, passengers, a doctor traveling to perform surgery, and a cargo hold filled with food, timber, and medical supplies. The weather was clear. The ship was sturdy. There was no reason to expect trouble. But trouble came anyway. When the Joyita failed to arrive at its destination, search parties fanned out across the South Pacific. Planes flew over thousands of square miles of water. Ships scoured the routes. For weeks, nothing. Not a flare, not a radio call, not even a scrap of debris. It was as if the Joyita and everyone on board had been swallowed whole. Then, 5 weeks later, the ocean gave up its secret. A merchant vessel spotted a dark shape drifting more than 600 miles off course. It was the Joyita. The ship was listing heavily to one side, its deck partially submerged, but it hadn't sunk. When rescuers boarded, what they found was chilling. The vessel was completely empty. No crew, no passengers, no lifeboats. Inside, the scene was even more unsettling. Cargo lay scattered, as if abandoned in haste. Boxes of medical supplies had been opened, blood-stained bandages left behind. The ship's radio had been tuned to the distress frequency, but its antenna was broken, rendering it useless. In the captain's cabin, the clock had stopped at exactly 10:25. The engines were silent. The logbooks were gone. The personal belongings of the crew and passengers missing. Yet the Joyita, though damaged, was still seaworthy. It had not been sinking. So why had everyone abandoned it? Theories began to swirl. Some investigators suspected mechanical failure. The ship's main engine had been unreliable, and a leak in the bilge pipes might have caused water to pool in the hull, making it appear as though the Joyita was going under. In panic, the crew may have launched lifeboats. But if that were true, why abandon a ship that was still floating? And why were the lifeboats never found? Others whispered of piracy. The South Pacific in the 1950s was no stranger to desperate opportunists. Perhaps raiders had boarded, taken the passengers, and stripped the ship of valuables before leaving it adrift. Yet there were no signs of struggle, no bullet holes, no bodies. Some believed in darker forces, a rogue wave, sudden and catastrophic, smashing the deck and convincing everyone to flee. Others wondered if the crew had been overcome by fear, paranoia, or even something unexplainable. Stories of strange lights and sea monsters have haunted sailors for centuries, but none of these explanations fit neatly, and perhaps that's why the Joyita's mystery endures. After the vessel was recovered, it was repaired and put back into service, but sailors refused to crew it. Too many felt uneasy, convinced it was cursed. Some even claimed to hear strange noises coming from the hull at night. Eventually, the Joyita was abandoned once again, left to rot. A ghost ship in every sense of the word. What really happened that October remains unsolved. 25 lives gone without a trace. A ship left wandering the Pacific, half-sunken, silent, its secrets locked away in the waves. The MV Joyita is more than just a mystery. It is a reminder of how unforgiving the sea can be. In an ocean that covers most of our planet, even the strongest vessels can vanish, and even the brightest minds can fail to explain why. And as we leave this drifting ghost behind, our journey continues. This time, to the deepest point on Earth, a place so hostile, so alien, that only a handful of humans have ever dared to descend. Next, the Challenger Deep, and the strange sounds that echo from its abyss. From the drifting ghost of the Joyita, our journey now plunges deeper, far deeper, into a world few dare to imagine. Beneath the Pacific Ocean lies a place so extreme, so hostile, that it makes the surface of Mars look familiar. It is the Challenger Deep, the lowest point on Earth's seafloor. A trench of shadows, pressure, and silence, broken only by noises that science still cannot fully explain. The Challenger Deep lies at the southern end of the Mariana Trench, a scar on the seafloor nearly 2,500 miles long. At its deepest, it sinks almost 36,000 feet, 7 miles beneath the surface. To put that in perspective, if Mount Everest were dropped into this abyss, its summit would still be more than a mile underwater. The pressure down there is unimaginable, over 1,000 times greater than at the surface, a force so crushing it could implode a submarine in an instant. The temperature hovers near freezing. Sunlight never penetrates. For centuries, the trench was nothing but a blank spot on the map, a depth too dangerous to explore. In 1960, 2 men dared to descend. Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh, aboard the bathyscaphe Trieste, spent nearly 5 hours sinking into darkness until they finally touched bottom. They remained for only 20 minutes before beginning the long, perilous climb back. In that short time, they reported seeing life. A flatfish moving slowly across the sediment. Proof that even in this crushing world, something survived. Half a century later, filmmaker James Cameron returned in his own deep-diving submersible. He found strange creatures, giant amphipods, translucent sea cucumbers, organisms adapted to total darkness. But the Challenger Deep remains largely untouched. Less than a handful of humans have ever been there. Most of what we know comes not from sight, but from sound. In 1997, researchers recorded something extraordinary. A sound unlike anything ever captured before. It began as a low rumble, then rose sharply into a metallic screech. The noise was so loud, it was detected by sensors thousands of miles away. Scientists nicknamed it the bloop. At first, theories ran wild. Some speculated it was biological, a colossal creature hidden in the abyss, its call louder than any whale. Others suggested geological activity, shifting plates, undersea quakes, or the groan of icebergs breaking apart. To this day, the bloop remains a point of debate, but it wasn't the last strange sound. In 2014, another hydrophone recorded something even stranger. It began as a mournful, almost whale-like moan, before shifting into a sharp, metallic twang. Scientists named it the Western Pacific biotwang. No known species makes calls with that pattern or frequency. Other recordings followed. Long, resonant rumbles that seemed too deep for any animal. High-pitched whistles that echoed through the water. Even rhythmic pulses like sonar signals, yet with no human source. Some recordings lasted seconds, others minutes. Some repeated with eerie precision. What causes these sounds? Theories abound. Some scientists argue they are geological, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or the grinding of tectonic plates. Others believe they are biological, produced by creatures we have yet to discover. The ocean, after all, is home to species stranger than fiction. The colossal squid, once dismissed as myth, was only confirmed in recent decades. And then there are the more unsettling possibilities. Could the noises be artificial, the work of unknown technology deep below? Some have even suggested they might be signals, not random echoes, but deliberate messages from something we have not yet encountered. The Challenger Deep is more than just a point on a map. It is a reminder that Earth still holds realms as alien as any distant planet. Down there, pressure crushes steel, darkness rules eternally, and sounds emerge that we cannot explain. The deeper we listen, the more questions arise. Is the bloop simply an iceberg groaning in the Antarctic seas? Or is it the voice of something vast, alive and hidden far below? For now, the Challenger Deep keeps its silence and its secrets. But one thing is certain. In the ocean's abyss, we are still strangers. Up next, a lost city swallowed by the Mediterranean, only to rise again thousands of years later, Heraklion, Egypt's Atlantis. From the black silence of the Mariana Trench, where strange sounds echo in the deep, our journey now rises toward the sunlit Mediterranean. Here, waves lap gently against Egypt's coast, hiding a secret that eluded historians for over 1,000 years. A city once described in legend as a bustling gateway to the Nile, then lost without a trace. Some believed it was myth, like Atlantis. But in the year 2000, that myth became reality. This is the story of Heraklion, Egypt's Atlantis. For centuries, Heraklion was whispered about in ancient texts. The Greeks wrote of a city where merchants paid tribute before entering Egypt. They described temples, canals, and grand statues dedicated to the gods. But over time, its name vanished from maps, its streets forgotten. By the Middle Ages, Heraklion was a mystery. Had it ever existed at all? Or was it nothing more than a tale? The truth waited beneath the sea. In 2000, French underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudiot led a survey of the Egyptian coast near Alexandria. Using sonar and magnetic imaging, his team mapped the seabed. What they found was astonishing. The outlines of streets, canals, and structures, an entire city buried under layers of sand and mud. Diving into the murky water, archaeologists soon uncovered massive stone statues. Some stood over 16 feet tall, their carved faces still recognizable after centuries underwater. There were toppled columns, broken temples, and fragments of daily life, anchors, coins, even ceremonial amulets. Piece by piece, Heraklion began to rise again. Once, this city had been alive with commerce. Built on a network of islands crisscrossed by canals, Heraklion was Egypt's port to the Mediterranean. Traders arrived with gold, spices, and goods from distant lands. Priests oversaw rituals in temples dedicated to gods like Amun and Heracles, the city's namesake. At its height, Heraklion was rich, powerful, and sacred. And then it disappeared. Why? The evidence points to both slow decay and sudden catastrophe. The city was built on unstable, waterlogged soil. Over time, its foundations weakened, buildings began to tilt, and rising seas crept higher each year. Then, sometime in the 2nd century BC, disaster struck. Archaeologists believe earthquakes or a massive flood triggered liquefaction. The ground literally turned to quicksand beneath the city's weight. Temples collapsed. Houses sank. In the chaos, the sea swallowed Heraklion whole. For over 1,000 years, it remained hidden, preserved beneath layers of silt. The rediscovery of Heraklion wasn't just about ruins. It was about lives frozen in time. Archaeologists found household pottery, tools, and food containers. They found weights used for trade, records carved into stone, and statues of gods worshipped by both Egyptians and Greeks. The city had been multicultural, vibrant, and alive until the day it sank. To divers swimming through its canals today, the sight feels eerie. Streets where people once walked now patrolled by fish, temples that once stood tall now resting in silence. It is as though the Mediterranean pressed pause on history and left everything waiting. But the mystery lingers. Did the people of Heraklion escape before the collapse? Or were they swallowed alongside their city? Some legends speak of divine punishment, the gods themselves striking down the city. Others point to political shifts. Heracleion may have declined as nearby Alexandria rose in power, its fate sealed by both man and nature. Whatever the cause, its rediscovery reminds us of how fragile civilization can be. Even the grandest city can vanish, consumed by the sea, leaving only whispers until one day it is found again. Today, much of Heracleion remains unexplored. The site stretches for miles, and each dive reveals new fragments of its story. It is a living time capsule, a reminder that beneath calm waters, entire worlds may still be waiting. From Atlantis-like myth to archaeological fact, Heracleion proves that legends sometimes hold truth. And as the waves roll over its drowned temples, one question remains. How many more lost cities still lie beneath the sea? Next, we travel from ancient ruins to a modern tragedy. The unexplained disappearance of the submarine ARL San Juan and the 44 sailors who never returned. From the ruins of Heracleion, where an ancient city was swallowed by the sea, our journey now takes us to a tragedy not buried in centuries of history, but one that unfolded in our own time. November 2017, a modern submarine, state-of-the-art and crewed by 44 sailors, vanished without a trace in the South Atlantic. It was the pride of Argentina's Navy. And then, silence. This is the chilling story of the ARA San Juan. The San Juan was a German-built TR-1700 class submarine, commissioned in 1985 and designed for long patrols. Sleek, powerful, and capable of operating deep below the waves, it was one of Argentina's most advanced vessels. In 2014, the submarine underwent a major overhaul, replacing key systems and extending its life for years to come. On November 15, 2017, the San Juan departed from Ushuaia, Argentina's southernmost city, often called the end of the world. Its mission was routine: patrol national waters, monitor for illegal fishing, and then return north to its home base at Mar del Plata. Conditions were challenging, but the crew was seasoned, experienced men and women trained for the dangers of submarine life. That morning, the crew checked in with Naval Command. They reported a problem. Seawater had entered through the snorkel, causing an electrical fault in the forward battery compartment. It was serious, but the crew insisted it was under control. They had isolated the issue and were continuing their journey. Hours later, the San Juan went silent. It never made contact again. When the submarine failed to report back, Argentina launched a massive search effort. Dozens of ships and aircraft scoured thousands of square miles. Countries around the world sent help: the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, and more, deploying cutting-edge sonar, drones, and even deep-diving vehicles. Families of the crew gathered at naval bases, waiting desperately for news. Days passed, then weeks. No signal, no debris, just an empty ocean. The first clue came from an unexpected source: a hydroacoustic monitoring network designed to detect nuclear tests. On the same day the San Juan went missing, sensors picked up an anomalous sound near its last known position. The signature was consistent with a sudden, catastrophic event: an implosion. If true, the submarine would have been destroyed instantly. The pressure at depth would have collapsed its hull in milliseconds, giving the crew no chance to react. But even with this grim evidence, the submarine remained missing. The ocean was vast, the seabed rugged, and technology limited. Months turned into a year. Families grew frustrated, accusing the Navy of withholding information. Protests broke out. Questions swirled. Was the San Juan properly maintained? Had safety warnings been ignored? Or was something else at play? In November 2018, almost exactly 1 year later, the mystery began to unravel. A private company, Ocean Infinity, was hired to continue the search using autonomous underwater vehicles. Within days, they found it. Over 3,000 feet below the surface, the San Juan lay broken and scattered across the seabed. The images showed a hull crushed inward, evidence of a violent implosion. Experts concluded that seawater leaking into the batteries likely caused a fire or explosion, crippling the vessel before it plunged beyond its safe depth. The discovery brought answers, but also heartbreak. The sailors had perished instantly, entombed in the darkness of the South Atlantic. For their families, the wreck was both a grave and a reminder of promises unfulfilled. For Argentina, it was a national tragedy, raising questions about the state of its navy and the cost of neglect. Even now, some wonder, could it have been prevented? Were there warning signs ignored, repairs delayed, corners cut? Or was the San Juan simply a victim of the ocean, an unforgiving force that shows no mercy, even to steel and courage? The sea holds its secrets tightly, and in November 2017, it claimed 44 souls in silence. Next, we leave tragedy behind and journey east, to the South China Sea, where a natural wonder plunges into darkness. A blue hole so vast and mysterious, it's been called the Eye of the Dragon. From the cold tragedy of the San Juan, we now journey to warmer waters, across the Pacific, into the turquoise seas of southern China. At first glance, the South China Sea looks calm, even inviting. But beneath its sparkling surface lies something darker, a void that plunges nearly 1,000 feet into the earth. It is the world's deepest known blue hole, a place shrouded in folklore and scientific mystery. Locals call it the Dragon Hole. For centuries, fishermen whispered about this abyss. They claimed it was the home of spirits and sea monsters, a cursed place where the water pulled down anything that ventured too close. Legends say dragons once lived here, coiling in the darkness, watching. Even today, sailors avoid it. To them, it's not just a hole in the sea, it's an entrance to another world. And yet, it is very real. The Dragon Hole, also known as the Yonaguni Blue Hole, was officially explored in 2016 by Chinese researchers. Using sonar and remotely operated vehicles, they measured its depth, 987 feet. That's deeper than Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas, long considered the largest. At the surface, it looks almost serene, an almost perfect circle of deep indigo, surrounded by brilliant turquoise shallows. But beneath that calm ring, the water drops straight down into blackness. Exploring it is no simple task. Divers can only descend so far before the pressure and lack of oxygen become deadly. Most of what we know comes from robotic probes. As they descend, light fades quickly. At around 300 feet, darkness takes over completely. Past 500 feet, life itself vanishes. The hole contains layers of water separated by sharp boundaries, almost like invisible walls. Scientists discovered that below about 330 feet, there is no oxygen. It is an anoxic zone, deadly to almost all known life. Fish and coral thrive near the top, but deeper down, it is silent, barren, and strange. The water itself changes, dense, murky, filled with hydrogen sulfide, a toxic world where survival seems impossible. And yet, even here, something lives. Researchers found microbes, tiny organisms able to endure the harsh, oxygenless depths. These creatures may hold secrets about how life could exist on other planets. To scientists, the Dragon Hole is not just a curiosity. It is a natural laboratory, a glimpse into alien conditions right here on Earth. Still, mystery surrounds it. The hole sits near the Paracel Islands, a region already heavy with political tension. Mapping its depths is difficult, and much of it remains uncharted. Could there be geological features hidden inside? Caverns stretching sideways into the unknown? Nobody knows. And then there are the legends. Local stories speak of ships that vanished after drifting too close, pulled downward by unseen forces. Some claim the hole has no bottom, that it connects to other parts of the ocean through hidden tunnels. Others believe it is a gateway, a place where the natural and supernatural meet. What makes the Dragon Hole so haunting is its dual nature. On one hand, it is a scientific wonder, the deepest blue hole on Earth, revealing how life endures in extreme environments. On the other, it is a symbol of the sea's danger, a reminder of how quickly beauty can turn into fear. Standing above it, looking down into that endless blue, you cannot help but feel small. The surface is calm, the water warm, the sun bright. But just beneath, an abyss yawns, waiting. Is it simply a geological marvel? Or is there something more? Something ancient? Something the legends still whisper about? For now, the Dragon Hole keeps its secrets. Next, we leave the South China Sea and turn to northern waters, where divers discovered something strange resting on the seabed. A shape so unusual, it sparked whispers of UFOs and alien contact. The mystery of the Baltic Sea anomaly. From the Dragon Hole's endless blue, we travel thousands of miles north, to the cold, gray waters of the Baltic Sea. A place where history lingers in the fog, where countless ships have sunk in storms, and where whispers of the strange and unexplained echo among fishermen and divers. It was here, in 2011, that a group of treasure hunters stumbled across something unlike anything they had ever seen. A discovery that some compared to science fiction. This is the mystery of the Baltic Sea anomaly. The story begins with Ocean X, a Swedish diving team searching for shipwrecks and salvage. Their sonar swept across the seabed between Sweden and Finland, scanning for something valuable. What appeared on their screens stopped them cold. It was an object, nearly 200 feet wide, resting 300 feet below the surface. At first glance, it looked like rock, but the shape was too precise, too symmetrical. It had curved edges, straight lines, and what seemed to be a long ramp or staircase leading up one side. To the divers, it resembled a massive disc, a craft of some kind. When they returned to investigate, things only grew stranger. Divers reported odd sensations near the object, equipment malfunctioning, electronic devices shutting down for no reason. The sonar images revealed a formation with sharp angles, resembling walls and corridors. One section looked like a dome, another like an archway. Even more unusual, the object seemed to sit on a raised pillar of rock, as though it had landed or been placed there. Speculation exploded. Some said it was a crashed UFO, buried for thousands of years. Others believed it was the remains of an ancient civilization, perhaps a temple or fortress lost to the sea. The size and shape seemed too deliberate to be chance. But skeptics pushed back. Many scientists argued the formation was simply a glacial deposit, rocks dragged and carved by ice sheets during the last ice age. The straight lines, they said, were natural fractures. The circular shape was coincidence. To them, the Baltic Sea anomaly was nothing more than geology playing tricks on human imagination. Still, questions remained. Ocean X divers described unusual rock samples taken from the site. Some contained metals not typically found in the Baltic seabed. Others appeared scorched, as though exposed to extreme heat. Skeptics dismissed these findings as contamination or misinterpretation, but they fueled further speculation. Why would electronics fail near the object? Why did divers feel uneasy, as if being watched? And why did sonar scans show features that looked so distinctly artificial? Adding to the mystery, the anomaly's ramp appeared to lead into the seabed itself, as if the disk extended further underground. Was it the visible tip of something much larger? Or just another illusion created by fractured stone? Years later, the anomaly remains unresolved. No government or major scientific body has conducted a full-scale excavation. Some suggest political tensions in the region have discouraged deeper study. Others believe the lack of answers only adds to the legend. For those who have seen it, the Baltic Sea anomaly is too unusual to dismiss. Whether it's a natural formation, an ancient ruin, or something far stranger, it sits quietly on the seabed, waiting for someone to return. In the end, the Baltic Sea anomaly is more than a curiosity. It is a symbol of how little we truly know about our oceans. Even in shallow waters close to home, mysteries lie just out of sight. Is it a rock, a ruin, or the wreckage of something not of this earth? The Baltic Sea keeps its secret, wrapped in cold water and silence. Next, we travel across the Atlantic to a triangle of ocean that has claimed ships, planes, and lives without explanation. The Bermuda Triangle, one of the sea's most infamous mysteries. From the icy stillness of the Baltic Sea, we now turn to warmer waters, an expanse of ocean so infamous it has earned a name whispered with dread. A place where ships vanish, planes disappear, and distress calls end mid-sentence. Calm seas one moment, silence the next. This is the Bermuda Triangle. Stretching between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, this region of the Atlantic covers over 500,000 square miles. On the map, it's just another patch of ocean. But in the minds of sailors and pilots, it has become one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. The legend begins with stories passed down through generations. Christopher Columbus himself recorded strange events while sailing near the area in 1492. He described his compass spinning wildly, lights flashing on the horizon, and eerie phenomena that unnerved even his seasoned crew. Centuries later, those same waters would claim hundreds of vessels, often under baffling circumstances. One of the most famous cases is Flight 19. In December 1945, 5 U.S. Navy bombers took off from Florida on a routine training mission. Weather was clear, the pilots experienced. Yet only hours into the flight, they became disoriented. Radio transcripts reveal confusion, compasses malfunctioning, directions uncertain. The last transmission was chilling. Everything looks strange. We can't tell where we are. The ocean doesn't look right. Moments later, silence. Neither the planes nor the 14 men aboard were ever seen again. Even stranger, the rescue plane sent after them vanished too, along with its 13 crew. That's 27 men lost in a single night, without a trace. And Flight 19 was only the beginning. Ships have disappeared in broad daylight. The USS Cyclops, a massive Navy cargo vessel with over 300 men aboard, sailed into the Triangle in 1918 and never emerged. No wreckage was found. In 1963, the Marine Sulphur Queen, a 500-foot tanker, sent its last message near the Triangle and was gone within hours. Again, no debris, no explanation. Skeptics point out that the Atlantic is vast, and storms, rogue waves, and human error account for many accidents. The U.S. Coast Guard insists the number of disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle is no higher than anywhere else in the ocean. But still, the details are hard to ignore. Perfectly calm seas, sudden compass failures, and the total absence of wreckage feed the legend. Theories abound. Some suggest powerful underwater currents known as rogue waves, rising unexpectedly and capsizing vessels. Others point to methane hydrates, gas trapped beneath the seabed that, if released, could destabilize water density and sink ships in seconds. Pilots report unusual magnetic anomalies, perhaps explaining compass malfunctions. And then there are the wilder ideas, that the Bermuda Triangle is home to alien bases, pulling ships into the deep, that it's a gateway to another dimension, or even that it hides remnants of Atlantis, its advanced technology interfering with modern navigation. What makes the triangle so enduring is not just the number of disappearances, but the sheer lack of answers. In most cases, no bodies, no wreckage, no oil slicks are ever found. It is as if these vessels and their crews were plucked out of existence. Today, ships and planes continue to pass through the Bermuda Triangle without incident. Millions of travelers cross it every year. Yet the legend remains, fueled by stories that refuse to fade. Is the Bermuda Triangle just a myth, inflated by coincidence and fear? Or is there truly something in those waters, something science cannot yet explain? For now, the ocean keeps its secret. Next, we leave the Atlantic behind and turn to another ghost ship, perhaps the most famous of them all. A vessel found adrift in 1872, perfectly intact, yet utterly abandoned. The haunting tale of the Mary Celeste. From the storms and vanishings of the Bermuda Triangle, we now sail back into the past, to one of the most enduring mysteries in maritime history. A ship found floating in the Atlantic, fully intact, its cargo untouched, its sails set, but its crew gone, as if they had simply vanished into thin air. This is the story of the Mary Celeste. The year was 1872. The Mary Celeste was a sturdy brigantine, 100 feet long, built for crossing oceans. On November 7th, she departed New York City under the command of Captain Benjamin Briggs, a respected sailor. On board were his wife, his 2-year-old daughter, and a crew of 7. Their destination, Genoa, Italy. The ship carried a cargo of nearly 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. The voyage was expected to be routine, but the Atlantic had other plans. On December 4th, nearly a month later, another vessel, the Dei Gratia, spotted the Mary Celeste drifting aimlessly about 400 miles east of the Azores. Her sails were partially set. She was not sinking. From a distance, she looked seaworthy. But when the Dei Gratia's crew boarded, what they found became legend. The Mary Celeste was deserted. The captain's cabin was neat, with clothing folded and belongings in place. The ship's cargo was untouched. There was food and water for 6 months. The ship's log ended abruptly 9 days earlier, with nothing unusual reported. The only things missing were the lifeboat and the crew themselves. But there were strange details. 3.5 feet of water sloshed in the hold. Not unusual for a ship of her size, but concerning. One of the ship's pumps had been disassembled. A sword, later found in the captain's cabin, appeared stained, though tests showed no blood. And while the cargo was mostly intact, several barrels had leaked. Still, none of this explained why 10 experienced sailors would abandon a seaworthy vessel in the middle of the Atlantic. Theories quickly followed. Some suggested an explosion. The alcohol cargo, if vapors leaked, might have caused a sudden burst of flames, enough to terrify the crew into abandoning ship, but not enough to leave scorch marks. Others proposed that a waterspout or freak wave drenched the deck, convincing Captain Briggs that the ship was sinking. In panic, they may have launched the lifeboat, only to be lost at sea. But the mystery deepened. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of piracy, no storms recorded at the time. The ship's navigation equipment was intact, yet Briggs's sextant and chronometer were missing, as if he had tried to chart an escape. Some historians believe a miscalculation led the crew to abandon ship too soon. Others whisper of darker causes, mutiny, foul play, or even paranormal forces. What makes the Mary Celeste so haunting is the silence it left behind. The ship was salvaged and returned to service, but sailors swore it was cursed. Its later voyages ended in disaster, as if the ghost of its missing crew still lingered on board. To this day, no trace of Captain Briggs, his family, or his crew has ever been found. They left behind no message, no signal, no explanation. Just a ship, drifting alone across the Atlantic, its story frozen in time. The Mary Celeste remains the most famous ghost ship in history, not because of what we know, but because of what we don't. 10 souls vanished from a perfectly good ship in calm seas. Why? No one can say. Perhaps the sea swallowed them. Perhaps they fled in terror from something unseen. Or perhaps the Mary Celeste will forever remain exactly what it is, a riddle drifting on the waves. Next, we dive not into history, but into the deep Pacific, where the Shinkai submersibles have also uncovered landscapes as alien as any planet. Vast plains of black basalt, hydrothermal vents spewing boiling water and toxic chemicals, surrounded by thriving colonies of tube worms and ghostly crabs. Places where life should not exist, and yet it flourishes, independent of the sun. And down there, they have seen things that still baffle even scientists. Divers report encounters with organisms unlike anything described in textbooks. Gigantic jellyfish, larger than the sub itself, pulsing in slow motion. Fish with transparent heads, their eyes glowing like lanterns. Squid the size of buses, flashing bioluminescence in patterns that resemble coded signals. One crew described watching as a strange, glowing shape approached their sub. At first, they thought it was equipment, a reflection. But it moved with purpose, drifting past the porthole before vanishing into the dark. No camera caught it. No logbook could explain it. To this day, they aren't sure what they saw. On another dive, researchers reported what sounded like knocking on the hull. In the silence of the abyss, it echoed unnervingly. Was it shifting rocks, pressure creaks, or something alive, curious about the intruders in its world? The Shinkai submersibles have also uncovered landscapes as alien as any planet. Vast plains of black basalt, hydrothermal vents spewing boiling water and toxic chemicals, surrounded by thriving colonies of tube worms and ghostly crabs. Places where life should not exist, and yet it flourishes, independent of the sun. These discoveries have revolutionized biology, proving that life can survive in environments once thought impossible. But with each revelation comes mystery. If these creatures can exist here in such extremes, what else might lurk just beyond our reach? Some divers describe fleeting glimpses, shadows moving in the distance, silhouettes too large to be anything known. One account spoke of a massive shape that blocked out the lights of the sub, gliding silently overhead. Was it an undiscovered leviathan? Or simply the imagination running wild in the deep, where even a trick of light can feel alive? The Shinkai program has logged thousands of dives, mapping trenches, cataloging species, and studying geology. But the human stories, the moments when the abyss seemed to watch back, remain the most haunting. Because the truth is, we've only scratched the surface. More than 80% of the ocean is still unexplored. Even the most advanced submersibles can't stay down forever. Each dive ends with a slow return to the surface, leaving behind unanswered questions. The Shinkai encounters remind us of a sobering fact. The deep ocean is Earth's final wilderness. It hides life that challenges our understanding, and mysteries that may never be solved. Were those glowing giants real, or tricks of pressure and fear? Was the knocking on the hull geology, or something alive? We may never know. But one thing is certain. In the abyss, the line between science and mystery is thinner than anywhere else on Earth. Next, we shift from strange sightings to strange sounds. A noise so powerful it was heard across the Pacific. A sound scientists called the bloop. From the Shinkai submersibles and their strange encounters in the abyss, we now turn not to what was seen, but to what was heard. In the summer of 1997, microphones deep in the Pacific picked up a sound so powerful, so loud, that it echoed across thousands of miles of ocean. A sound louder than any blue whale, the largest animal on Earth. It was nicknamed the bloop. And to this day, its origin remains one of the ocean's greatest mysteries. The discovery came from an unlikely source. During the Cold War, the United States Navy deployed vast networks of underwater microphones, hydrophones, across the world's oceans. Their purpose was simple: to track submarines in the deep. But in the 1990s, these hydrophones were shared with scientists for research. And that's when they heard something extraordinary. On August 19, 1997, a strange, low-frequency rumble was recorded in the southern Pacific Ocean. It began as a deep moan, then rapidly grew louder, rising in pitch before fading into silence. The sound was so powerful that it was picked up by hydrophones over 3,000 miles apart. At first, scientists were baffled. Only one natural source in the ocean was known to produce sounds of that magnitude: whales. But this noise was louder, much louder than any whale ever recorded. The bloop was in a class of its own. Speculation spread quickly. Some believed it was geological, caused by shifting tectonic plates, undersea earthquakes, or the cracking of icebergs. The sound's rapid rise and fall, however, closely resembled biological patterns, like the call of a living creature. Could it have been the vocalization of some massive, undiscovered species? For years, that was the most tantalizing theory. The idea that somewhere in the unexplored deep roamed an animal larger than a blue whale. Something ancient, hidden in the blackness, whose voice alone shook the ocean. Theories ranged from giant squid to prehistoric leviathans. Others whispered of cryptids, or even something stranger still. The bloop seemed to be proof that the ocean still had monsters waiting to be found. But science, as always, sought a more grounded explanation. Later studies suggested the bloop may have come from icequakes, massive chunks of glacial ice breaking and shifting in Antarctica. These events can produce sounds remarkably similar to biological calls, and powerful enough to carry across the ocean. To many researchers, this explanation was the most likely. And yet, not everyone is convinced. For one thing, the bloop's location was curious. It originated near a remote point in the Pacific known as Point Nemo, the ocean's pole of inaccessibility. It is the farthest place from any land, a watery desert few humans ever cross. Coincidentally, or perhaps not, it's also the place where science fiction writer H.P. Lovecraft set the city of Ardlia, the sunken home of the cosmic entity Cthulhu. A coincidence, perhaps, but for those who love mystery, it was chilling. So what was the bloop? A glacier cracking in Antarctica? The call of an undiscovered leviathan? Or something stranger, something waiting in the ocean's most isolated depths? To this day, there is no absolute answer. What's certain is this. In 1997, something vast stirred beneath the waves, something powerful enough to be heard across an entire ocean. And then, silence. The bloop is a reminder that the sea is not silent. It is alive with voices we cannot yet explain. Some belong to creatures we know, others may not. And if one noise could travel thousands of miles, how many others are out there, echoing in the deep, just waiting to be heard? Next, we move from unexplained sounds to unexplained disappearances. A Navy cargo ship carrying over 300 men into the Bermuda Triangle and never returning. The vanishing of the USS Cyclops from the mysterious roar of the bloop, a sound that shook the Pacific. We now shift to silence, an even greater mystery. One of the largest ships in the United States Navy, carrying more than 300 men, vanished without sending a single distress call. No wreckage was ever recovered. No bodies were ever found. This is the disappearance of the USS Cyclops. The Cyclops was a colossus of her time. Built in 1910, she stretched more than 500 feet long and weighed over 19,000 tons. She wasn't a warship, but a collier, designed to transport coal to fuel the Navy's growing fleet. Massive, slow, and steady, the Cyclops was considered reliable. She had served during World War I, ferrying coal and supplies across the Atlantic. In early 1918, she was given a new assignment: to carry a cargo of manganese ore from Brazil back to the United States. On board were 306 people, sailors, officers, and passengers. It was to be a routine voyage, one the ship had completed many times before. But the journey would never end. The Cyclops departed from Salvador, Brazil, on February 16, 1918, bound for Baltimore. She stopped briefly in Barbados to refuel on March the 4th. That night, witnesses reported the ship sitting low in the water, burdened by its heavy cargo. Yet there were no signs of trouble. Her captain, George Worley, gave no hint that the ship was in danger. After leaving Barbados, the Cyclops sailed into the Atlantic and simply disappeared. No distress call was ever sent, no SOS, no signal of any kind. It was as if the ocean swallowed her whole. The US Navy launched a massive search. Ships combed the Atlantic. Wireless stations listened for any transmission, but nothing was found. Not a plank of wood, not a scrap of metal. The largest ship in the Navy's fleet at the time had vanished without a trace, taking 306 souls with her. The loss remains the single greatest non-combat disaster in US naval history. What could have happened? One theory is structural failure. The Cyclops was heavily loaded with ore, so heavy that she may have been unstable. If the seas turned rough, a sudden shift in cargo might have caused her to capsize. Another possibility is that one of her massive engines failed, making her vulnerable to storms. But the weather reports from that week describe relatively calm seas. Some point to Captain Worley himself. He was a controversial figure, known for strict discipline and an abrasive personality. Rumors even suggested he sympathized with Germany during World War I. Could sabotage have played a role? Was the Cyclops sunk deliberately? There is no evidence, but the whispers never faded. Others turned to the sea itself. The Cyclops vanished within the boundaries of the Bermuda Triangle, a region already infamous for unexplained disappearances. Was it swallowed by a rogue wave? Pulled down by a sudden current? Or was it yet another victim of something science cannot explain? The most unsettling fact is the silence. A ship that large should have had time to send a distress signal. For nothing at all to be heard suggests something sudden, catastrophic, and final. An explosion, an implosion, or a single overwhelming force of nature. But without wreckage, the truth remains hidden. Over a century later, the fate of the USS Cyclops is still unknown. Somewhere in the Atlantic, beneath miles of water, lie the remains of the ship and its 306 crew. A steel giant reduced to silence. The ocean never gave them back. Next, we turn from vanished ships to drowned lands. Legends speak of a great flood that changed human history, and perhaps inspired one of the oldest stories ever told. The Black Sea Flood Hypothesis. From the silence of the USS Cyclops, a steel giant lost to the Atlantic, we now turn to an older mystery, one not of ships or submarines, but of civilizations. Thousands of years ago, an enormous flood may have swallowed entire communities, forcing survivors to flee. Some believe this cataclysm was so powerful, so unforgettable, that it became one of humanity's oldest and most enduring legends, the story of Noah's Ark. This is the Black Sea Flood Hypothesis. The Black Sea today lies between Eastern Europe and Western Asia, bordered by countries like Turkey, Ukraine, and Bulgaria. But its story begins at the end of the last ice age, about 7,600 years ago. At that time, much of the world's water was locked in glaciers. Sea levels were lower. The Black Sea, scientists believe, was not the vast body of water we know now. It was a smaller, freshwater lake, surrounded by early farming communities. Then, something happened. As the climate warmed, glaciers melted, sea levels rose, and according to the Black Sea Flood Hypothesis, the rising waters of the Mediterranean eventually breached a narrow strip of land, the Bosporus Strait, where Istanbul stands today. The result was catastrophic. In a geological instant, the Mediterranean poured into the Black Sea basin. Water surged with unimaginable force, perhaps 200 times stronger than Niagara Falls. The flood may have raised the level of the Black Sea hundreds of feet, drowning thousands of square miles of farmland. Entire villages, towns, and sacred sites were lost beneath the waves. Imagine being a farmer, living by the shore, when the ground begins to tremble. A roaring sound grows louder, and suddenly, a wall of salt water crashes inland, swallowing everything. For survivors, it would have seemed like the end of the world. The idea was first popularized in the 1990s by geologists William Ryan and Walter Pittman. Their research suggested that the Black Sea's shoreline expanded dramatically around this time, forcing people to migrate. These refugees may have carried their story with them, a story of a flood sent by angry gods, a flood that reshaped the earth and humanity's destiny. Could this be the origin of the flood myths found across so many cultures? The Bible tells of Noah, who built an ark to survive 40 days of rain that covered the earth. The Sumerians wrote of Utnapishtim, a man warned by the gods to save himself from a deluge. The Greeks told of Deucalion, who survived a flood sent by Zeus. The similarities are striking. Different lands, different names, but the same story of survival against overwhelming water. Not everyone agrees. Some scientists argue the Black Sea flood was smaller, slower, and less catastrophic than the hypothesis claims. They believe the connection to Noah's Ark is a stretch. Others point out that large floods happened across the world at the end of the Ice Age, as seas rose everywhere. The biblical tale may not point to one specific event, but to a collective memory of humanity's struggle against nature. Still, the evidence beneath the Black Sea is compelling. Divers and researchers have found ancient shorelines deep below its surface, and even the remains of wooden structures that could once have been villages. These discoveries hint at a world swallowed by water, still waiting to be explored. The Black Sea flood hypothesis may never be proven beyond doubt, but whether it was the flood or simply one of many, it leaves us with a sobering thought. Stories that seem like myth may be rooted in memory. A memory of a time when the sea rose suddenly, violently, and reshaped the world. Perhaps Noah's Ark wasn't just a story of faith. Perhaps it was also a story of survival, passed down through generations, born from a flood that really happened. Next, we travel to a very different body of water, the deepest lake on Earth. A lake so vast and strange that divers report encounters they still cannot explain. Lake Baikal in Siberia. From the floodwaters of the Black Sea, where ancient memories may have given rise to the legend of Noah's Ark, we now journey inland, deep into the heart of Siberia. Here lies a body of water so vast and so ancient that it is often called the Galapagos of Russia. Lake Baikal. The world's deepest lake, home to thousands of species found nowhere else on Earth. But Baikal is also home to something far stranger. Stories of glowing lights, mysterious craft, and encounters that some believe are not of this world. Lake Baikal is extraordinary even without its mysteries. Stretching over 400 miles long and more than a mile deep, it contains nearly 20% of all the fresh water on Earth. Scientists believe the lake is at least 25 million years old, making it the oldest of its kind. Its isolation has given rise to unique life forms: giant sponges, translucent fish, even freshwater seals. To many, Baikal feels less like a lake and more like an inland sea. But locals will tell you it is something more. A place where the ordinary laws of nature don't always seem to apply. Fishermen have reported glowing orbs hovering over the water, darting silently into the night sky. Others speak of strange beams of light shining from beneath the surface, illuminating the dark water like underwater spotlights. These accounts stretch back decades, whispered among villagers and travelers. But perhaps the most chilling stories come from the divers. In the 1980s, during the Soviet era, military divers training in Lake Baikal reported a terrifying encounter. At depths of around 150 feet, they claimed to have seen strange beings, described as humanoid, nearly 10 feet tall, wearing smooth, silvery suits with no visible breathing apparatus. The beings did not attack, but they moved with speed and confidence in the freezing depths, as though the water itself was their natural home. According to reports, the divers attempted to capture one of the beings using nets. The result was catastrophic. A sudden force threw the men to the surface, causing severe decompression injuries. Several divers were killed. The incident was hushed up, hidden in military archives for years. Only later did whispers leak out, feeding speculation about what lurks beneath Baikal's calm surface. Skeptics argue that the stories are exaggerations or misunderstandings. Training in Baikal's freezing, high-pressure depths is dangerous. Hallucinations, nitrogen narcosis, and panic could explain the strange reports. But believers insist the divers saw something real, and they're not alone. Satellite imagery has shown odd circular patterns on Baikal's frozen surface, massive rings etched into the ice. Some suggest these are caused by methane gas bubbling from the depths. Others believe they are evidence of something stirring beneath. Then there are the disappearances, boats vanishing in calm conditions, fishermen who never return, strange wrecks found with no explanation. While Lake Baikal is vast and treacherous, the consistency of the stories keeps the mystery alive. What makes Baikal so unsettling is that, unlike the open ocean, it is a lake, enclosed, finite, yet it feels infinite, as though its depths lead somewhere else entirely. Is Lake Baikal simply a geological wonder with dangerous conditions? Or is it a hotspot for phenomena we cannot yet explain? Lights in the sky, beings in the water, and accidents that hint at something beyond human understanding. For now, the lake remains quiet. Its icy surface hides its secrets well. But ask anyone who lives nearby, and they'll tell you the same thing. Baikal is alive. It watches, and sometimes it reaches out. From Siberia's inland sea, we now travel back to the ocean, to the Caribbean depths, where divers stumbled upon massive stone structures that look eerily like pyramids. Could they be the remains of a lost civilization? The mystery of Cuba's underwater pyramids, from the frozen depths of Siberia's Lake Baikal, where strange lights and alien-like beings haunt divers, we now travel to warm Caribbean waters, an ocean of turquoise blue that hides something astonishing. Off the western coast of Cuba, deep beneath the waves, lies a discovery that could rival Atlantis itself. A vast complex of stone structures, some shaped like pyramids, stretching across the seafloor. The story begins in 2001, when a Canadian exploration company called Advanced Digital Communications, or ADC, was hired by the Cuban government to survey the seabed. Using sonar, they mapped the ocean floor near the Guanahacabaibes Peninsula. At first, the scans showed nothing unusual, just the contours of the seabed. Then, the images revealed something extraordinary. At a depth of about 2,300 feet, the sonar traced enormous geometric shapes, rectangles, straight lines, and even structures that appeared pyramid-like. Some formations were as large as city blocks. Unlike the irregular chaos of natural geology, these shapes looked precise, symmetrical, intentional. Intrigued, the team deployed underwater cameras. Grainy video footage seemed to confirm what sonar had hinted. Massive stone blocks, stacked and aligned in patterns. Walls, corridors, and even steps appeared to rise from the silt. The site covered nearly 20 square kilometers, far larger than most ancient cities on land. The discovery shocked the scientific community. If these were ruins, they would have to be incredibly old. The seabed in this region had been dry land at least 10,000 years ago, during the last ice age. That would make the Cuban pyramids older than the Great Pyramids of Giza, older than Stonehenge, possibly one of the earliest civilizations ever discovered. But if true, why were there no records, no legends, no traces of such a people? Theories multiplied. Some speculated that the structures were remnants of a lost civilization, drowned as sea levels rose when the Ice Age glaciers melted. Others connected the find to the legend of Atlantis, the advanced city described by Plato that sank beneath the waves thousands of years ago. Could the Cuban pyramids be proof that such stories held truth? Skeptics offered simpler explanations. They argued that the sonar images were misinterpreted, that natural rock formations on the seabed can sometimes mimic man-made structures. Others suggested that the video footage was unclear, distorted by light, water, and distance. Without physical samples or a detailed survey, they cautioned, was impossible to say for certain. Still, the allure of the site was undeniable. Since then, research has stalled. Political tensions, limited funding, and the extreme depth of the structures have prevented further exploration. Unlike shallow water ruins such as Japan's Yonaguni Monument, these formations lie far deeper, requiring specialized submersibles and costly expeditions. For now, the site remains unexplored, its secrets locked away under thousands of feet of water. But the questions linger. If the Cuban pyramids are natural, they represent one of the most extraordinary geological illusions ever found. If they are artificial, they could rewrite human history, pointing to an advanced culture that thrived long before any known civilization. Divers who have studied the sonar scans say the shapes are too precise, too symmetrical to be coincidence. Walls running parallel for hundreds of feet, blocks arranged in patterns, stare like terraces rising toward the surface. Each feature seems to whisper of human design, and yet the ocean does not confirm. For now, the Cuban pyramids sit in silence, cloaked in silt and salt water, waiting. Are they a natural quirk of the seabed, or the ruins of a forgotten people swallowed by time? Until someone returns with proof, the pyramids of Cuba remain one of the ocean's greatest enigmas. Next, we move from possible ruins to a Cold War mystery, a Soviet submarine that sank in the Pacific under suspicious circumstances. The story of K-129, from the silent ruins of the Cuban pyramids, possibly the remnants of a civilization swallowed by the sea. We now shift into the tense waters of the Cold War, an era when the oceans were not just highways for trade and exploration, but battlefields of secrecy and silence. In 1968, a Soviet submarine carrying nuclear weapons slipped beneath the Pacific waves on patrol and never returned. What followed was one of the most secretive and strangest operations in naval history. This is the story of the K-129. The K-129 was a diesel-electric ballistic missile submarine, part of the Soviet Union's Pacific Fleet. Armed with 3 nuclear missiles and nuclear-tipped torpedoes, it was designed to patrol the ocean in silence, ready to strike at a moment's notice. In February 1968, the K-129 departed its base in Kamchatka for what was supposed to be a routine mission. 98 men were aboard. Weeks passed without contact, then months. The K-129 failed to report back. For the Soviets, this was a disaster. A nuclear submarine had simply disappeared. Moscow launched frantic searches across the Pacific, but no wreckage was ever found. To the outside world, the K-129 was gone, swallowed by the deep. But the Americans had been listening. During the Cold War, the United States maintained a vast network of hydrophones to track Soviet subs. In March 1968, these sensors detected a sudden violent acoustic event, an explosion, northwest of Hawaii. Analysts traced the location and realized it was the likely resting place of the K-129. At a depth of over 16,000 feet, the sub lay far beyond normal salvage capability. But the U.S. saw opportunity. If they could recover the wreck, they could unlock Soviet nuclear secrets. Thus began one of the most ambitious covert projects in naval history, Project Azorian. Using Howard Hughes as cover, the CIA commissioned a massive ship, the Glomar Explorer. Officially, it was built to mine the seafloor for manganese nodules. In reality, it was designed for one purpose: to lift the wreck of the K-129 from the abyss. From the shattered hull of the Soviet submarine K-129, a relic of Cold War secrecy, we now dive back into the natural mysteries of the ocean. This time, to the deepest place on Earth, the Mariana Trench. It is a world of crushing pressure, eternal darkness, and icy cold. A world that should be lifeless, and yet, it isn't. In the abyss, life thrives. Creatures so bizarre, so alien, that they challenge our very idea of what it means to be alive. The Mariana Trench stretches nearly 1,500 miles long and reaches depths of almost 36,000 feet. At the bottom, the pressure is 1,000 times greater than at sea level, equivalent to the weight of 50 jumbo jets pressing on your body. The temperature hovers just above freezing. Sunlight never penetrates. It is a place beyond human endurance. And yet, when scientists first sent cameras and submersibles into the trench, they were stunned by what they found. At 20,000 feet, fish with translucent skin drifted slowly, their bones visible inside their bodies. Amphipods, tiny crustaceans, grew to enormous sizes, their clear shells glowing faintly in the dark. Worms as long as pencils writhed in the sediment, surviving on nutrients that trickled down from the surface world far above. But the strangest discovery came in 2014, when researchers captured footage of a creature never before seen. Dubbed the ghost fish, it was pale, almost gelatinous, with a head shaped like an angel's wings. Its body was so fragile that scientists believed it would collapse if brought to the surface. It thrived in conditions that should have been impossible. Nearby, entire colonies of life clustered around hydrothermal vents, cracks in the Earth's crust, where scalding water and chemicals spew into the dark. Tube worms taller than a man with blood-red plumes. Shrimp with eyes adapted to sense heat instead of light. Microbes that feed not on sunlight, but on the chemistry of the Earth itself. Here, life had found a way in the most hostile place on the planet. The trench is also home to giants. The colossal squid, once considered a sailor's myth, is believed to hunt in these depths. With eyes the size of dinner plates and tentacles lined with hooks, it is one of the ocean's most formidable predators. Rare footage has captured these behemoths in action, their glowing bodies twisting in the abyss. Other sightings remain unconfirmed. Massive shadows gliding past submersibles, shapes so large they dwarf the vehicles. Were they simply whales diving deeper than expected? Or something undiscovered, lurking in the dark? The strangest part is not just what we've found, but what we haven't. The trench remains largely unexplored. Less than a handful of human missions have reached its bottom. Most of our knowledge comes from remote vehicles, and even those can only stay for limited times. Every dive reveals new species, new adaptations, new wonders, and it raises unsettling questions. If life can thrive here, without light, under unimaginable pressure, feeding on chemicals instead of the sun, could similar life exist elsewhere? On the icy moons of Jupiter or Saturn, where oceans lie hidden beneath ice, the creatures of the Mariana may hold the key to understanding alien life. The trench reminds us that the ocean is not empty. It is alive with forms we have yet to imagine. To peer into its depths is to glimpse another world, one that exists right here on Earth. Are these creatures simply nature's strangest survivors? Or are they just the first hints of something even larger, waiting to be discovered? For now, the Mariana keeps its monsters close, hidden in the blackness of the abyss. Next, we rise from natural mysteries to a tale of human tragedy once again. A squadron of planes that vanished in clear skies over the Atlantic. The disappearance of Flight 19. From the ghostly creatures of the Mariana Trench, we rise again to the skies above the Atlantic. Back into the region sailors and pilots dread the most, the Bermuda Triangle. Of all the disappearances here, none is more chilling than the story of Flight 19, 5 U.S. Navy bombers that vanished during a routine mission in 1945. Their final words over the radio paint a picture of confusion, fear, and something no one could explain. December 5th, 1945. World War II had ended just months earlier. At Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station in Florida, a group of 14 airmen prepared for a standard training exercise. They would fly a set course over the Bahamas and return. Their aircraft, TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. Sturdy, reliable planes that had proved their worth in the war. The leader was Lieutenant Charles Taylor, an experienced pilot with combat hours behind him. At 2:10 p.m., the squadron, known as Flight 19, took off into clear skies. Everything seemed routine. For the first hour, the planes followed their course perfectly. Then, something went wrong. At around 3:40 p.m., radio operators picked up a transmission from Taylor. His voice was calm but uncertain. "We can't see land. Everything looks strange. Even the ocean doesn't look as it should." He reported that his compasses were malfunctioning, both giving conflicting readings. The squadron no longer knew where they were. Ground control urged them to fly west, back toward Florida. But Taylor was convinced they were over the Florida Keys, far from their true position. Following his lead, the squadron flew further east, deeper into the Atlantic. Minutes turned into hours. The men grew anxious. One pilot was heard saying, "If we just headed west, we'd get home." But Taylor overruled him. By nightfall, radio contact grew faint. The last words picked up were chilling. "We can't tell where we are. Everything is wrong. It looks like we are entering white water." Then, silence. Flight 19 never returned. The Navy launched one of the largest air-sea rescue operations in history. Hundreds of ships and aircraft scoured the waters, but not a single trace of the planes, or the 14 men aboard, was ever found. To make matters worse, tragedy struck the very rescue mission. A PBM Mariner flying boat sent to search for Flight 19 exploded mid-air, killing all 13 crew. Witnesses described a massive fireball. The loss only deepened the mystery. So what happened to Flight 19? The official investigation concluded the squadron became disoriented, ran out of fuel, and ditched into the sea. The Atlantic can be merciless, and storms swept the area that night. Wreckage could have sunk quickly, disappearing into deep waters. To skeptics, that is the simplest explanation. But others aren't so sure. The radio messages spoke of strange skies, white water, and oceans that didn't look right. Were the pilots seeing a natural phenomenon, or something else entirely? Some suggest magnetic anomalies in the Bermuda Triangle disrupted the compasses. Others believe sudden weather events, like electronic fog or waterspouts, confused and disoriented the men. And then there are those who argue the disappearance was not natural at all, that Flight 19 stumbled into something inexplicable, a dimensional rift, or even an encounter with forces beyond our world. What makes the case so haunting is the total absence of wreckage. 5 aircraft, 14 men, vanished as though erased. Decades later, searches with modern technology have found wrecks of Avengers off Florida, but none have been confirmed as Flight 19. The original squadron remains lost. Today, Flight 19 stands as the defining mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. A routine mission, clear skies, experienced men, and yet, in just a few hours, they were gone. Did the ocean swallow them? Did their instruments betray them? Or did they cross into something humanity has yet to understand? The answers lie somewhere in the Atlantic, beneath endless miles of water. Next, we remain with ghostly ships, but one far darker. A vessel found adrift, its entire crew dead, their faces twisted in terror. The horrifying mystery of the SS Urang Medan. From the vanished planes of Flight 19, lost somewhere over the Bermuda Triangle, we now turn to one of the most terrifying ghost ship stories ever told. A freighter drifting silently in the Strait of Malacca. Its crew, every man dead, their faces twisted in horror. A ship that seemed cursed, and whose end remains one of the sea's darkest enigmas. This is the legend of the SS Urang Medan. The story begins in June of 1947, when ships sailing through the busy waters between Sumatra and Malaysia picked up a distress signal. The voice on the radio was weak but urgent. All officers, including the captain, dead, lying in chart room and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. There was silence, then one final message: I die. Then nothing. Alarmed, 2 American vessels, the Silver Star among them, traced the signal and found the source: the Dutch freighter SS Urang Medan. She was drifting aimlessly, with no signs of life on deck. Boarding parties prepared to investigate. What they found chilled them to the core. The entire crew was dead. Bodies littered the decks, their eyes wide open, mouths frozen in screams. Some lay with arms outstretched, as though fending off an unseen attacker. Others appeared to have collapsed mid-step. The captain lay dead on the bridge. Even the ship's dog was found lifeless, teeth bared. Yet there were no signs of wounds, no blood, no evidence of violence. The radio operator who sent the SOS was still at his station, his fingers curled over the key. His face was frozen in terror. The strangest detail was the atmosphere itself. Boarding parties reported an unnatural chill, despite the blazing tropical heat. Some claimed they felt an invisible presence, an oppressive weight in the air, as though the ship itself was haunted. The rescuers decided to tow the Urang Medan to port, but before they could begin, smoke began pouring from the hold. Moments later, fire erupted, forcing them to flee. The flames consumed the ship quickly, and within hours, the Urang Medan exploded with a massive blast. She sank into the depths, taking her secrets with her. What happened aboard the Urang Medan? Explanations range from the natural to the supernatural. Some investigators believe the ship was smuggling hazardous cargo, possibly chemicals, poisons, or even nerve gas left over from World War II. A leak might have released toxic fumes, killing the crew in minutes. The fire and explosion could have been the final result of unstable cargo igniting. Others suggest carbon monoxide poisoning, or leaking gases from the ship's engines, suffocated the crew. But skeptics point out that the corpse's expressions, twisted in horror, don't fit with peaceful poisoning. And then there are the darker theories. Some claim the crew fell victim to paranormal forces, a cursed voyage, attacked by something not of this world. Others whisper of alien encounters, pointing to the radio message's final words: I die. A chillingly personal sign-off, as though the operator had seen something unearthly in his last moments. What makes the Urang Medan so mysterious is the lack of proof. The ship's registry has never been found. Some historians even argue the vessel never officially existed, that the story is nothing more than maritime folklore. Yet records of the radio distress call and accounts from the Silver Star persist. Something happened in those waters. The SS Urang Medan remains a ghost story etched into maritime history. Was it a secret cargo gone wrong? Or did the crew truly witness something that froze their faces in terror? We may never know. The ship lies somewhere beneath the Strait of Malacca, its wreck undiscovered, its truth drowned forever. From the smoking wreck of the Urang Medan, our journey moves back into the Cold War. Another submarine, this time American, vanished in 1968, its nuclear arsenal lost with it. The unexplained disappearance of the USS Scorpion. From the burning wreck of the SS Urang Medan, a ship that left nothing but whispers, we now turn once again to the Cold War. 1968 was a tense year, marked by espionage, nuclear brinkmanship, and silent battles beneath the sea. It was also the year when another submarine disappeared, this time an American vessel. A nuclear-powered submarine carrying nearly 100 men and 24 nuclear torpedoes. This is the mystery of the USS Scorpion. The Scorpion was a skipjack-class attack submarine, launched in 1959. Sleek, fast, and deadly, it carried a crew of 99 and was considered one of the U.S. Navy's most advanced boats of its time. By the late 1960s, however, the Scorpion had begun to show signs of wear. Mechanical problems, electrical failures, and even leaks had plagued the vessel. Still, in May 1968, she was ordered on patrol in the Atlantic, tracking Soviet naval movements near the Azores. On May 22nd, the submarine radioed in. The crew reported routine activity and expected to arrive in Norfolk, Virginia, within a few days. Nothing seemed amiss, but the Scorpion never came home. When the submarine failed to arrive, the Navy launched a massive search. Weeks passed with no word. Families of the crew waited in silence, while the Navy quietly analyzed hydrophone data from the Atlantic. Then, they found it. On May 22nd, at roughly the time the Scorpion vanished, underwater listening stations had detected a series of loud acoustic events. First, a sharp noise. Then, a sequence of explosions. The signature suggested a catastrophic event, a hull collapse at extreme depth. The Scorpion had gone down, but why? In October 1968, the wreck was located. More than 10,000 feet beneath the Atlantic, 400 miles southwest of the Azores, the Scorpion lay broken on the seabed. The hull was crushed, debris scattered across the ocean floor. But the cause of the sinking remained elusive. Some investigators pointed to mechanical failure. The submarine's reputation for problems suggested that an electrical short or flooding incident could have doomed her. A malfunctioning torpedo battery, they speculated, may have caused a fire or explosion inside the sub. Others believed a faulty torpedo had armed itself inside the tube, detonating and sinking the vessel. If true, the crew would have had little time to react. But in the shadowy world of the Cold War, darker theories emerged. 1968 was not an ordinary year. Just months earlier, the Soviet submarine K-129 had sunk in the Pacific. Some believed the Scorpion's loss was not an accident, but retaliation, a secret Soviet strike. Could a Soviet torpedo have sunk the Scorpion in a clash the world never learned about? The U.S. government has never confirmed such a theory. Official reports list the cause as undetermined. Families of the crew have long demanded clearer answers, but the Navy has remained cautious, releasing only fragments of information. To this day, the Scorpion's wreck remains on the ocean floor, a war grave for the 99 men who went down with her. Her nuclear torpedoes are still entombed within the shattered hull, a silent reminder of the dangers that once lurked in the depths during the Cold War. Was it mechanical failure? A torpedo gone wrong? Or was it something far more dangerous? A clash of superpowers hidden beneath the waves? The USS Scorpion remains one of the most enduring naval mysteries of the 20th century. A nuclear submarine lost without warning, her story buried in secrecy. Next, we leave the Cold War behind and return to something even older. Strange carcasses that wash ashore, sparking stories of sea monsters and beasts of the deep. From the crushed wreck of the USS Scorpion, a nuclear submarine lost to Cold War secrecy, we now move to mysteries that wash ashore. Strange, decaying shapes cast up by the sea. For centuries, people have stumbled upon monstrous carcasses on beaches and coastlines. Creatures so bizarre they seem to belong to another world. Some call them sea monsters. Scientists call them globsters. One of the most famous cases dates back to 1808. on the remote Orkney Islands of Scotland. A farmer walking along the shore of Stronsay discovered something huge tangled in the seaweed. It measured more than 55 feet long, with a long, serpent-like body, 3 pairs of fins, and bristly mane-like hair along its back. The carcass was so unusual that locals dubbed it the Stronsay beast. Word spread quickly. Could this be proof of the sea serpent sailors had described for centuries? Newspapers reported the discovery, and drawings of the beast circulated widely. But when scientists examined the remains, they suggested it was simply the decayed body of a basking shark. Over time, as a shark's body decomposes, its jaws and fins can rot away, leaving behind something that looks eerily like a long-necked sea monster. Still, not everyone was convinced. The Stronsay beast remains one of the most compelling monster carcasses in history, and it wasn't the last. In 1896, a massive creature washed ashore near St. Augustine, Florida. It was pale, rubbery, and tentacled, weighing several tons. Locals believed it was a giant octopus. Photographs show a strange, blobby mass unlike any known creature. Later analysis suggested it was decomposed whale tissue, but the story of the St. Augustine monster lives on. Throughout the 20th century, similar remains appeared around the world. In 1960, a huge carcass floated ashore in Tasmania, earning the name Tasmanian globster. In 1970, another strange mass appeared in Bermuda. In 1977, Japanese fishermen hauled up a rotting creature off New Zealand that looked shockingly like a plesiosaur, the long-necked reptiles thought to have gone extinct with the dinosaurs. Each time, excitement exploded. Had sea monsters been real all along? Scientists often point to a more mundane explanation. When whales die at sea, their bodies sometimes float for weeks before currents carry them ashore. As they decay, connective tissues break down, and parts of the skeleton collapse. What remains is a mass of blubber, cartilage, and tendons that can look alien, limbless, hair-covered, or tentacled. To an untrained eye, it seems like the remains of a giant, unknown animal. But these explanations don't always settle the debate. DNA testing on some carcasses has confirmed whale origin, yet others remain inconclusive, either too degraded for analysis or never preserved at all. And in every case, the public imagination runs far beyond the science. After all, the ocean is vast and largely unexplored. If colossal squids, once dismissed as myth, turned out to be real, who's to say other giants don't lurk unseen? Could some of these globsters truly be remnants of undiscovered species, washed up from the abyss? What makes these carcasses so haunting is their in-betweenness. They are tangible. You can touch them, measure them, photograph them, and yet they defy easy classification. Are they simply misidentified whales and sharks, or glimpses of life still hidden in the deep? The Stronsay beast, the St. Augustine monster, the Tasmanian globster, each is a reminder that sometimes the sea gives back pieces of itself we aren't ready to understand. Sea monsters may be legend, globsters may be science, but the line between them is thinner than we'd like to admit. Next, we turn from the mysteries that wash ashore to the strange seas that exist within the sea itself. Pools of brine so toxic, they kill anything that enters them. The deadly lakes of the Gulf of Mexico, from the strange carcasses that wash ashore and spark legends of sea monsters. We now dive to a place even stranger, where the ocean itself forms lakes at the bottom of the sea. These are the brine pools of the Gulf of Mexico, bodies of water so salty and toxic that they kill anything that dares to enter. Scientists call them hypersaline lakes. Sailors call them something else. death traps. At first glance, a brine pool looks like an illusion. Picture this. You're piloting a submersible across the dark seafloor, headlights cutting through the gloom. Suddenly, ahead of you, the terrain dips into a basin filled with what looks like still, shimmering water. Waves ripple across its surface, even though you're already deep beneath the ocean. It feels impossible, like stumbling across a lake inside another lake. And yet, that's exactly what it is. Brine pools form when ancient salt deposits, buried deep underground, leak into the ocean through cracks in the seabed. The salt water is so dense, 3 to 8 times saltier than normal seawater, that it doesn't mix. Instead, it settles like a separate body of liquid, forming what looks like a shoreline at the bottom of the sea. For anything that enters, these pools are deadly. Fish that stray across the edge quickly go still, their bodies preserved by the toxic brine. Crabs and shrimp lie scattered at the bottom, frozen in place. It is an environment without oxygen, suffocating and corrosive. To most marine life, it is a graveyard. And yet, life persists, just not in the way we expect. Around the edges of brine pools, bizarre ecosystems thrive. Mussels cluster along the banks, sustained not by sunlight, but by bacteria that live off methane and hydrogen sulfide seeping from the seafloor. Tube worms twist upward in ghostly white forests. These creatures survive where nothing else can, turning poison into energy. To scientists, the edges of brine pools are like alien laboratories. They prove that life can adapt to extremes, surviving without light or oxygen. Some even believe these environments could mirror conditions on icy moons like Europa or Enceladus, where salty oceans hide beneath frozen crusts. If life can exist here, maybe it can exist out there too. One of the most infamous of these pools is nicknamed the Jacuzzi of Despair. Found nearly 3,300 feet below the surface, it is a swirling cauldron of dense brine and toxic chemicals. Any creature that wanders into it dies instantly, preserved in eerie silence at the bottom. To explorers, the sight is unforgettable. A shimmering, glassy surface surrounded by rocky walls, like a portal to another world. Remote-operated vehicles that touch its edges can become trapped, their sensors overwhelmed by the hostile conditions. But the pools aren't just natural wonders. They're also windows into Earth's past. Layers of brine preserve sediments that record ancient climates, earthquakes, and catastrophic events. Each brine lake is like a time capsule, storing secrets millions of years old. And then there are the questions. Do these pools connect to deeper networks beneath the crust? Could they hide life we have never seen before? Or are they simply reminders of how hostile and how alien our own planet can be? The brine pools of the Gulf of Mexico are haunting because they defy our sense of the familiar. They look like lakes, but they kill like poison. They remind us that even in places we think we know, the ocean holds worlds within worlds. Places where the line between Earth and the alien blurs. Next, we leave the deadly lakes of the Gulf and travel to the far side of the Pacific, where another mysterious patch of sea mirrors the Bermuda Triangle, a region the Japanese call Ma no Umi, the Sea of the Devil, the Dragon's Triangle. From the brine pools of the Gulf of Mexico, those alien lakes at the bottom of the sea, we now cross the globe to the Pacific Ocean near Japan. Here lies a patch of water long feared by sailors, a region that mirrors the Bermuda Triangle in mystery and reputation. Ships vanish, planes disappear. Strange lights flicker over the waves. Locals call it Ma no Umi, the Sea of the Devil. The rest of the world knows it as the Dragon's Triangle. The Dragon's Triangle lies roughly between Japan, Taiwan, and the northern Philippines. Like the Bermuda Triangle, its boundaries are debated, but within them countless legends have been told. Some Japanese fishermen refuse to cross it, convinced it is cursed. Others speak of phantom ships, glowing orbs, and seas that seem to swallow vessels whole. One of the oldest stories comes from centuries ago, when sailors described monstrous whirlpools opening suddenly in calm waters. Their boats were pulled down into the abyss, never to return. To ancient chroniclers, this was the work of dragons, mighty beasts that lived beneath the waves, hungry for sacrifices. The name has stuck ever since. But legends alone don't explain the triangle's dark reputation. In modern times, reports of disappearances have given it an eerie credibility. During the 1950s, Japanese authorities recorded multiple vessels lost in the region. Some of the disappearances were so frequent that the Japanese government officially declared the area dangerous for navigation. For a time, it was labeled a maritime hazard zone. One of the most chilling incidents was the loss of a research vessel with over 30 crew members aboard. The ship vanished without a trace. No wreckage, no survivors, no distress call, only silence. Explanations vary. Some scientists point to the region's extreme geology. The Dragon's Triangle sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most tectonically active zones on Earth. Underwater volcanoes and earthquakes are common, capable of releasing sudden bursts of gas that could destabilize ships. Magnetic anomalies, like those reported in the Bermuda Triangle, might disrupt compasses and navigation systems. Others suggest more ordinary hazards: powerful typhoons, rogue waves, and unpredictable currents. These natural dangers, combined with heavy sea traffic, could easily explain many of the disappearances. But to believers, the triangle is more than just dangerous. It is supernatural. Stories tell of ghost ships drifting through the mists, their decks empty, their crews vanished. Fishermen have claimed to see glowing orbs rising from the sea, streaking across the sky, then plunging back into the waves. Some describe enormous shadows moving beneath their boats, too large to be any known animal. And then there are the whispers of Atlantis, or something like it. Some theorists believe the Dragon's Triangle may hide ruins of an ancient, advanced civilization, its lost technology interfering with modern vessels. Others see it as a portal, a gateway to another dimension. Just as the Bermuda Triangle inspires speculation of rifts in time and space, so too does its Pacific twin. What makes the Dragon's Triangle so unnerving is not just the disappearances, but the parallels. Two vast oceans, half a world apart, yet both with regions of mystery, both with tales of compasses spinning, lights in the sky, and vessels swallowed whole. Coincidence or connection? The Dragon's Triangle remains one of the Pacific's greatest enigmas. Perhaps it is nothing more than storms, volcanoes, and shifting currents. Or perhaps, beneath the waves, something older and stranger waits, just as sailors have believed for centuries. From the Pacific's Sea of the Devil, we now journey inland again, this time to the Great Lakes of North America, where divers discovered something that looks eerily familiar. Stone circles arranged like monuments, hidden beneath the waters of Lake Michigan. From the turbulent waters of Japan's Dragon's Triangle, where legends of dragons and vanishing ships haunt the Pacific, we now cross back to North America, to the heart of the Great Lakes. Lake Michigan is vast, cold, and dangerous, claiming hundreds of shipwrecks across the centuries. But beneath its fresh water, divers once stumbled upon something stranger than wreckage. Stone circles, arranged with uncanny precision, as though placed there by human hands long before recorded history. Could these be prehistoric monuments, hidden for millennia beneath the waves? The story begins in 2007, when a team of researchers led by Professor Mark Hawley, an underwater archaeologist at Northwestern Michigan College, set out to survey Lake Michigan's floor. Using sonar, they mapped the area near the Traverse Bay region, searching for shipwrecks. Instead, their equipment revealed a line of stones stretching across the lake bed. At first glance, it looked like natural rock formations. But as they continued the survey, they noticed patterns. Large boulders arranged in a circle, some standing upright, others aligned with surprising precision. One stone even appeared to bear carvings, markings that resembled the shape of a mastodon, an ancient creature that roamed North America more than 10,000 years ago. If the carving was authentic, it would mean the stones had been placed there during the last ice age, when water levels were far lower, and the lake bed may have been dry land. The find drew comparisons to Stonehenge, the prehistoric monument in England. Some quickly nicknamed it Michigan's Stonehenge. Like its European counterpart, the stones seemed deliberate, aligned as though to mark something important, perhaps rituals, seasonal cycles, or celestial events. Skeptics, however, urged caution. Many believed the so-called mastodon carving was simply an erosion pattern, a trick of light and shadow in the murky depths. Others argued that the stones might have been arranged naturally by glacial activity, their placement the result of retreating ice rather than human design. Still, the possibility remained tantalizing. Could prehistoric people have built monuments here, only to see them swallowed by rising waters thousands of years ago? The Great Lakes themselves were shaped by the melting of Ice Age glaciers. As massive ice sheets retreated, they carved deep basins that filled with meltwater. Entire landscapes, once home to human hunters and herds of mammoth and mastodon, disappeared beneath rising lakes. Archaeologists believe people lived along these ancient shorelines, and evidence of their presence may still rest on the lake floors, waiting to be uncovered. For divers, the stone circles carry an eerie sense of mystery. Swimming among the boulders, the water dim and green, it feels less like exploring geology and more like trespassing into an ancient monument. If the carving is truly of a mastodon, it suggests that the builders recorded the creatures they hunted, a rare glimpse into a vanished world. What makes Lake Michigan's stone circles so compelling is the uncertainty. Are they natural formations sculpted by ice, or deliberate monuments crafted by hands thousands of years ago? The truth may be somewhere in between. But if they are man-made, they stand as evidence of a forgotten chapter of North American history, an age when humans marked their world with stone, just as cultures across Europe and Asia did. The lake keeps its secret. The stones remain submerged, visited only by divers and sonar scans, their meaning still hidden. But one thing is certain: they remind us that the line between history and legend is often drawn in water. Next, we leave the cold Great Lakes and return to the open ocean, where sailors and scientists alike have been baffled by one of the strangest natural spectacles on Earth. Vast stretches of glowing, milky seas that shine for hundreds of miles in the dark of night. From the stone circles hidden beneath Lake Michigan, reminders of a possible prehistoric past, we now turn to one of the most surreal spectacles ever witnessed at sea. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship at night, staring into the dark ocean, and suddenly the water around you begins to glow. Not for a moment, not in patches, but stretching out to the horizon in every direction. A ghostly white radiance, as though the sea itself had become a living light. These are the mysterious Milky Seas. Sailors have described them for centuries. Reports speak of vast expanses of ocean glowing softly under the stars, lasting for hours or even days. Some called it an omen, others a miracle. Early captains wrote that their ships cut through glowing waters as if sailing across clouds. The effect was so disorienting that some crews believed they had crossed into another realm. But the phenomenon was not myth. It was real. In 1985, the research vessel SS Lima documented one of the largest Milky Sea events ever recorded. Off the coast of Somalia, the crew found themselves surrounded by glowing water stretching over 15,000 square kilometers, roughly the size of Connecticut. The light was so intense that they could read newspapers on deck in the middle of the night. So what causes these glowing oceans? The leading explanation is bioluminescence, tiny marine organisms, usually bacteria, that emit light through chemical reactions. Unlike the quick flashes of glowing plankton that beachgoers sometimes see in surf, Milky Seas produce a steady, uniform glow across immense distances. Scientists believe vast colonies of luminous bacteria, clinging to organic particles in the water, coordinate to emit light together, turning the ocean into a glowing field. And yet, the sheer scale remains baffling. How do microscopic organisms manage to synchronize across hundreds of miles? What triggers these rare events? And why do they appear most often in remote parts of the Indian Ocean and South Pacific? Modern technology has helped confirm what sailors once only described. In 2005, satellites equipped with sensitive low-light sensors captured images of a Milky Sea near Java. The glowing waters stretched for nearly 100 miles, visible even from space. Since then, a handful of other events have been detected, though they remain elusive and unpredictable. For the few lucky enough to witness them, the experience is unforgettable. Crews describe a sense of sailing over a giant glowing sheet, the water luminous and smooth, the horizon fading into pale light. Some report the glow clinging to the hull and wake of the ship, wrapping the vessel in an otherworldly aura. Others describe an eerie silence, as though the ocean itself were holding its breath. The mystery isn't just visual, it's biological. Why do these bacteria glow at all? Some scientists suggest the light attracts fish, who then ingest the bacteria, allowing them to spread. Others think it's simply a side effect of chemical processes. But no one has fully explained how colonies can organize across such vast distances. To sailors, though, the science matters less than the wonder. A Milky Sea is both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder that the ocean is alive in ways we cannot see until it reveals itself. Are Milky Seas just a rare trick of biology? Or are they part of a larger system we still don't understand? Whatever the answer, they remain one of the strangest and most breathtaking mysteries of the deep. Next, we leave glowing oceans for another enigma hidden beneath the waves, an island that appears on old maps, yet doesn't exist, the phantom land of Sandy Island. From the glowing expanses of the ocean's mysterious Milky Seas, we now turn to a tragedy that unfolded in our own time, one that shook an entire nation. In April 2021, an Indonesian submarine disappeared during a routine training exercise. For days, the world watched as hope dwindled, until the wreck was finally found in shattered pieces on the ocean floor. This is the story of the KRI Nanggala 402. The Nanggala 402 was a German-built Type 209 submarine, launched in 1977 and later modernized to extend its service life. For decades, It served as one of Indonesia's main submarines, patrolling the waters of the archipelago. Though old, it was considered reliable, a steel shark prowling the deep. On April 21, 2021, the submarine joined a naval exercise off the coast of Bali. A crew of 53 was aboard. Their mission, to conduct torpedo drills. At 3 a.m., the Nanggala requested permission to dive. By 4:30 a.m., communications ceased. The submarine never resurfaced. What followed was a desperate search. The Indonesian Navy declared the submarine missing. Warships were dispatched. Sonar scanned the depths. Within hours, other nations offered help: Australia, India, Singapore, and the United States. As news spread, families of the crew gathered on shore, clinging to hope. But time was the enemy. Submarines carry limited oxygen. If the crew were still alive, experts estimated they had only 72 hours before the air ran out. The clock began to tick. For 3 days, rescuers scoured the sea. Oil slicks were spotted near Bali, raising fears of a fuel leak. Search teams dropped sonar buoys and listened for signals. None came. The silence grew heavier with each passing hour. On April 25th, hope turned to grief. Using a deep-sea vessel, search teams finally located the wreckage, more than 2,700 feet below the surface. The submarine was found in 3 major pieces. The pressure at that depth was far beyond what the vessel could withstand. It had imploded. There were no survivors. All 53 crew members were lost. The disaster shocked Indonesia. Vigils were held. Families wept for fathers, brothers, and sons who had gone to sea and never returned. The Navy declared the crew fallen heroes and vowed to uncover what went wrong. But answers remain elusive. Some experts believe the Nanggala suffered a sudden power failure, leaving it unable to resurface. Others suggest a mechanical failure during the dive caused the submarine to plunge uncontrollably into the depths. The wreck's condition, broken into pieces, suggests a catastrophic implosion, likely occurring almost instantly. If true, the crew would not have suffered. It would have been over in less than a second. Still, the question lingers. Why did communication stop so suddenly? Why was there no distress call, no warning? The loss of the Nanggala is part of a haunting pattern. Around the world, submarines have vanished or been destroyed at sea. The USS Scorpion, the Soviet K-129, Argentina's San Juan. Each loss is a reminder of the unforgiving ocean, where the line between safety and catastrophe is razor thin. Today, the wreck of the Nanggala 402 remains on the seabed, a grave for its crew. The ocean holds them now, as it has countless others before. Their story is both tragedy and warning, that even in the 21st century, with all our technology, the sea still humbles us. The disappearance of the Nanggala reminds us that mysteries of the deep are not only ancient tales or legends of monsters. They are real, immediate, and human. Next, we turn from submarines back to nature's fury. Massive whirlpools that open in the ocean, swallowing anything caught in their spiral. The strange and deadly phenomenon of maelstroms. From the shattered wreck of Indonesia's Nanggala 402, a modern tragedy of the deep, we now turn to something far older. Off the coast of southern Greece lies a city not lost in myth, but in history. An entire town lying just a few meters below the waves. Streets, buildings, courtyards, and tombs remain perfectly preserved, silent for thousands of years. This is Pavlopetri, the oldest known underwater city. The site lies near Laconia in the Peloponnese. For centuries, fishermen and sailors in the region spoke of stones and walls beneath the shallows. But it wasn't until 1967 that archaeologists officially confirmed the discovery. An entire Bronze Age settlement submerged just offshore. Unlike the fabled Atlantis, Pavlopetri is no legend. It is real and remarkably intact. Divers swimming across the seabed found streets laid out in a grid pattern, lined with stone foundations. Buildings stood in neat rows, some with multiple rooms, others with evidence of courtyards. There were large structures that may have served as civic buildings, as well as tombs, storage pits, and even what appeared to be a central square. What stunned researchers was the scale. The site stretched for nearly 20 acres, far larger than a simple village. This was a planned town, built with care and precision. Archaeologists dated the city to around 5,000 years ago, during the early Bronze Age, making it older than most famous Greek ruins. Some artifacts even suggest occupation as early as 3500 BC. Pavlopetri thrived during the Minoan and Mycenaean periods, the same civilizations that inspired Homer's epics. So why did it vanish beneath the waves? The answer likely lies in geology. The region is seismically active, prone to earthquakes and shifts in the land. Around 1000 BC, tectonic activity and rising sea levels appear to have swallowed the city, leaving it just beneath the shallow surf. Unlike deeper sunken sites, Pavlopetri remained accessible but forgotten until modern divers stumbled upon its streets again. What makes Pavlopetri unique is how complete it is. Unlike many ancient ruins eroded by centuries of weather and conquest, this city was preserved under water and sand. Pottery shards, tools, and household items remain where they were last left. It is as though the inhabitants walked away and the sea quietly moved in to take their place. For archaeologists, it is a priceless time capsule. The site offers rare insights into daily life in the Bronze Age, how homes were arranged, how trade was conducted, how society was structured. Some believe Pavlopetri may have been a thriving port, linking inland Greece with Mediterranean trade routes. And yet, questions remain. What was life truly like here, at the dawn of urban civilization? Did its people flee before the sea rose, or were they caught unawares? Why are there so few written records or legends of its sudden disappearance? To divers today, exploring Pavlopetri is both eerie and awe-inspiring. Swimming along its streets, you can trace doorways and foundations, move through courtyards, and imagine families gathering thousands of years ago. The city still feels alive, as if it were waiting for its people to return. Pavlopetri is a reminder that not all sunken cities are myths. Some are real, preserved in stunning detail just beneath the surface of familiar waters. And it leaves us wondering, how many more ancient towns, villages, and temples still lie hidden under the world's seas, waiting to be rediscovered? From the quiet streets of Pavlopetri, we move back into the vastness of the ocean, where whirlpools twist with terrifying force, pulling ships into spirals of death. Arctic ping and haunting whistles. From the quiet streets of Pavlopetri, the world's oldest known underwater city, we now travel far north, to the frozen waters of the Arctic. Here, the ocean is not just cold, but alive with mystery. Hunters and scientists alike have reported strange sounds rising from beneath the ice. Pings, hums, and eerie whistles that seem to come from nowhere. Sounds so disturbing, they have even driven animals away from their traditional feeding grounds. The first major reports came in 2016 from Inuit hunters in Nunavut, Canada. For generations, these hunters had relied on the rich waters of the Arctic to sustain them. Seals, whales, and fish gathered in predictable places. But suddenly, the animals were gone. The hunters spoke of hearing a strange, mechanical, pinging sound from beneath the sea, sometimes accompanied by high-pitched hums or haunting whistles. The sounds were unlike anything they had heard before. They echoed through the water, almost like sonar, steady, deliberate, unnatural. Some hunters refused to travel through certain passages, convinced the sounds were scaring the wildlife away. Word spread quickly, and soon Canadian authorities launched an investigation. Naval vessels were sent into the region, sweeping the waters with sonar and sensors. The military admitted the sounds were real, but after weeks of searching, they reported no clear source. The Arctic ping remained unexplained. Speculation took hold. Some believed mining companies were secretly surveying the seabed, using sonar that disrupted marine life. Others accused submarines, Canadian, American, or even Russian, of operating covertly beneath the ice. Environmental groups suggested the noise might come from industrial equipment, drilling rigs, or shipping routes moving farther north as the ice retreats. But none of these explanations fully matched the strange reports. The sounds appeared suddenly, then vanished. No equipment, no wreckage, no human source was ever found. Scientists proposed natural causes. The shifting of sea ice, cracking and grinding against itself, can produce eerie noises that echo underwater. Geological activity, like undersea earthquakes or shifting permafrost, could also generate strange acoustic patterns. Some researchers compared the whistles to sounds recorded near hydrothermal vents, bubbles of gas rising from the seafloor. Yet those who heard the Arctic ping insisted it was different, too regular, too deliberate, almost as if it were a signal. This wasn't the first time the Arctic had sung its strange songs. For decades, explorers and scientists have documented unexplained underwater noises in polar regions. Some sound like distant bells, others like flutes. A few even resemble voices carried through the ice. Combined with the eerie isolation of the Arctic, these sounds fuel unsettling theories. Could the noises be caused by secret military technology, hidden far from public view? Are they evidence of unknown marine species, communicating in ways we don't yet understand? Or are they simply nature itself, reminding us how little we truly know about the frozen seas? What makes the Arctic ping so haunting is its impact. Animals vanished from their feeding grounds, disrupting both ecosystems and human livelihoods. Whatever the cause, it had real consequences. Proof that the ocean's mysteries are not always harmless curiosities, but forces that shape the lives of those who depend on the sea. To this day, the Arctic ping and its ghostly whistles remain unsolved. They echo in the silence of the north, fading in and out, leaving only questions behind. From the frozen Arctic, we now turn south to warmer waters, to the Indian Ocean, one of Earth's least explored seas. Here, beneath its waves, lies a graveyard of countless ships, wrecked and forgotten in the vastness of time. From the haunting whistles of the Arctic, where strange underwater sounds drove animals from their hunting grounds, we now journey south into warmer waters. The Indian Ocean. It is the third largest ocean on Earth, bordered by Africa, Asia, and Australia. And while it has been a crossroads of trade for thousands of years, it is also one of the least explored. Beneath its waves lies a vast and silent graveyard, countless shipwrecks scattered across the seabed, each with its own story of loss, mystery, and time. The Indian Ocean has always been a dangerous place to sail. Monsoon winds whip up sudden storms. Powerful currents can drag ships off course. For centuries, sailors navigated without maps, guided only by stars and instinct. Many never returned. Along ancient trade routes, ships carried spices, silk, gold, and porcelain between east and west. Some made fortunes, others vanished into the deep. Archaeologists believe there may be tens of thousands of wrecks resting in these waters. Wooden dhows, Chinese junks, Portuguese galleons, even modern freighters, all swallowed by storms or reefs. One of the most treacherous areas is the coast of Madagascar and the Comoros Islands, where sharp reefs and unpredictable currents have claimed countless vessels. Divers exploring here have found cannons encrusted in coral, anchors buried in sand, and coins scattered like forgotten treasure. Each artifact hints at journeys cut short and lives lost to the sea. But the Indian Ocean's shipwreck graveyard is not only ancient, it is also modern. In 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 vanished somewhere over the ocean, with 239 people aboard. Despite years of searching, the plane has never been found in its entirety. Debris has washed up on distant shores, but the wreckage itself remains hidden, a chilling reminder of how vast and unexplored these waters truly are. The same ocean that once swallowed wooden ships now hides one of aviation's greatest mysteries. For archaeologists, the challenge of exploring the Indian Ocean is immense. Its waters are deep and often turbulent. Many wrecks lie hundreds or thousands of feet down, far beyond the reach of ordinary divers. Others are buried under centuries of sand and silt. Only in recent years, with advanced sonar and robotic submersibles, have researchers begun to uncover fragments of its hidden past. Some discoveries are breathtaking. Off the coast of Oman, divers found the wreck of the Esmeralda, a Portuguese ship from Vasco da Gama's fleet, lost in 1503. The site yielded rare coins stamped with the royal seal, navigational tools, and even cannonballs. Off Sri Lanka, archaeologists uncovered the remains of ancient Roman trade goods, proof of connections between distant empires. Yet for every wreck discovered, thousands more remain unseen, their stories locked away in the darkness. To sailors, the Indian Ocean has always felt haunted. Stories tell of ghost ships drifting in the fog, their sails tattered, their decks empty. Local legends speak of cursed waters where ships vanish without a trace. Some of these tales may be folklore, born from the dangers of storms and reefs, but others may point to real wrecks, resting quietly on the seabed, forgotten until the sea decides to give them back. The Indian Ocean shipwreck graveyard is both tragedy and treasure. Each wreck is a tomb, holding the lives of those who never reached shore. But each is also a time capsule, preserving fragments of history lost on land. The ocean keeps them, waiting for us to look deeper. From this watery graveyard, we now descend into a place even more vast and desolate, the abyssal plains. The largest region on Earth, stretching endlessly across the seafloor, flat and dark, almost entirely unmapped. From the wrecks of the Indian Ocean, silent tombs of sailors and traders, we now descend even farther. Past the continental shelves, past the trenches, into the vastest region of all, the abyssal plains. These are the hidden deserts of the deep ocean, flat, dark, stretching endlessly across the seafloor. Covering more than half the planet's surface, they are the largest habitat on Earth. And yet, we know almost nothing about them. At first glance, the abyssal plains seem lifeless. They lie between 10,000 and 20,000 feet below the surface, where sunlight never reaches and pressures crush steel. Temperatures hover near freezing. To the human eye, it is a world of monotony, flat expanses of sediment stretching farther than the horizon. But appearances deceive. The abyss is not empty. Scientists who have sent submersibles to these depths have discovered creatures stranger than any nightmare. Anglerfish with glowing lures, transparent eels that vanish into the dark, gigantic isopods, crustaceans as big as house cats, scuttling across the mud, starfish that crawl on spindly arms, feeding on whatever drifts down from above. Life here survives on marine snow, a constant drizzle of organic debris sinking from the upper ocean. Tiny particles, dead plankton, the remains of animals, all drifting downward to feed the plains below. It is a world sustained by the leftovers of life above, recycling death into survival. Yet the plains also hold stranger secrets. In 2016, explorers discovered mysterious tracks etched into the seabed, hundreds of feet long. They appeared too regular to be random, like the path of some enormous creature dragging itself across the mud. No one has ever seen the thing that made them. Even stranger are the metallic nodules that litter the abyssal plains. Shaped like black potatoes, they contain rare metals such as cobalt, nickel, and manganese. Some scientists believe they could one day fuel the world's technology. Others warn that mining them would devastate fragile ecosystems we barely understand. And then there are the whispers of things even larger. Submariners have reported sonar contacts, shapes too massive to be whales, moving silently across the plains. Could undiscovered leviathans patrol the abyss, far below where humans can follow? What makes the abyssal plains so haunting is their scale. They are the single largest environment on the planet, yet less explored than the surface of Mars. We send rovers to distant worlds, but most of our own planet's surface lies in total darkness, unmapped, unknown. If there are mysteries of the sea still waiting to be found, lost civilizations, new life forms, even things beyond our imagination, the abyssal plains are where they wait. Flat, vast, silent, the abyss is the Earth's hidden heart. And for now, it remains almost entirely out of reach. We have journeyed far, from ghost ships like the Mary Celeste to modern submarines lost in silence, from ancient cities swallowed by the sea to strange sounds that echo in the deep, from glowing oceans to deadly lakes at the bottom of the sea. 30 mysteries, each one a reminder of how little we know about the waters that cover most of our world. The ocean has always been a paradox, our lifeline and our fear. It connects continents, feeds civilizations, and sustains life itself. And yet, it hides secrets in its depths, secrets that humble us, terrify us, and ignite our imagination. We have mapped the stars more thoroughly than we have mapped the ocean floor. Satellites peer across galaxies, yet whole mountain ranges lie unseen beneath the waves. Trenches deeper than Everest is tall remain barely explored. Vast plains stretch in darkness, filled with life forms we have never named. Every mystery we've explored in this journey, whether it was the eerie bloop sound, the wrecks of lost submarines, or the ruins of drowned cities, reminds us that the ocean is not just water. It is history, tragedy, possibility, and wonder. It is the last frontier on our own planet. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. Not what we've found, but what we have yet to find. Are there civilizations beneath the sea still waiting to be uncovered? Creatures beyond imagination, hiding in trenches we cannot reach? Forces we cannot yet explain, magnetic, geological, perhaps even something else? We cannot know. Not yet. But the ocean waits. Its silence is not emptiness. It is a promise. A promise that there are still stories to uncover, still discoveries to make, still wonders that lie just beyond our reach. So as our journey ends, we are left with this thought. The mysteries of the sea are not just relics of the past or legends of the deep. They are alive, unfolding even now, in every unexplored trench, every glowing tide, every whisper of sound beneath the ice. The ocean does not give up its secrets easily, but one day, piece by piece, it will. Until then, the sea remains what it has always been, an endless frontier, a mirror of our fears, and a reminder of how small we truly are against the vast, dark unknown.